Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Library at a Distance webinar series. My name is Sharon Shannon, and I am the Student Support Services Coordinator with the UGA Office of Online Learning. And today's webinar will cover finding research at a distance. I will serve as your moderator today, and your two presenters are Diana Hartle, the coordinator of public service for the Science Library, and John Prechtel, who is the business and economics librarian and also the distance learning librarian. A few housekeeping issues. Everyone should be muted for this webinar. However, if you're not, please mute your microphone. And also we have handouts available for you. You may download them now and access them during the webinar if you like, or print them later. And then lastly, if you have questions during the webinar, please enter them in the chat box and we will hold those questions until the end. So with that said, I will turn it over to our presenters.
Okay, great. We can see my slides, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
I
We'll get
can.
started. All right, so yes, my name is Diana, and I am the coordinator of public services at the Science Library. I'm also the liaison to the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources, as well as the College of Veterinary Medicine. And we'll talk a little bit about liaison librarians at the University of Georgia, because they can be a great resource to you now that our library doors are closed. So our outline today, we're going to be looking at our library's homepage and talking about different databases for research, specifically MultiSearch, which is a great multidisciplinary tool, best ways to search in Google Scholar, and then we're going to go into the research by subject area and look at the different places where you can find research specific to your own discipline. John's going to then take over and he's going to talk about how you can access ebooks. Again, our library doors are currently closed, but we do have a lot of ebooks available to you at a distance, both through our library catalog named Gill and also through a cooperative agreement with HathiTrust. And then he's got some other tips and tricks for finding ebooks that he will share with you. So one of the things to keep in mind, since we are all at a distance and off campus, anytime you need sources for your paper or for your research, if you start at our library's homepage, you'll be able to gain access to those by using the single sign-on service. So we use that portal as a way to authenticate our users when they're off campus. So the same thing you use to log into email or ELC will be the same way that you gain access to our resources while you're off campus. Okay, so we decided to pick a topic and we're going to use that topic throughout the presentation today. And the topic we're going to look at is colony collapse disorder in honeybee populations. So keeping that in mind, one of the first databases we're going to use is what's known as our MultiSearch. So as I mentioned already, MultiSearch is multidisciplinary. So that means it covers a broad range of topics. It contains about 200 of our databases. So you can search 200 of our resources with one search engine. It includes many different types of research resources. So if you need a book citation, or maybe you want to look at newspaper articles, all of that is available in our MultiSearch, including that top tier of scientific information, the peer-reviewed journal article. So this is available from our library's homepage. We'll go there now. So when you come to our library homepage, one thing to point out at the top here, we've developed this COVID-19 resource guide. So as things evolve and when we do open our doors back up, you'll be able to get all the information about that at this COVID-19 guide. So just keep that in mind, that this is sitting there at the top of our homepage anytime you're wondering about the services that we currently have available to you. But when you come here, you'll notice you've got the multi-search is the default search here. So I'm going to go to the advanced search, because this is going to give me the opportunity to add, um, combine my terms in a way that will get me effective results. Remember, anytime you go from our library's homepage, you're going to have to typically log in, because a lot of these resources are only available to UGA affiliates. So when I come up to the top here, I see that I am not logged in. So if I click on that, it's going to bring me to that single sign-on page where I can log in with my credentials. So I'm going to do log in with my ID. There's our familiar single sign-on service. Okay, so now once I've entered those credentials, you'll notice up here it says UGA Libraries. It's recognizing me. That yellow bar is gone from the top. So that means I'm now in this resource and able to search effectively. So unlike a Google search where you can just kind of use natural language or type sentences or ask questions, in these scholarly databases, it's going to be more important to kind of figure out what your keywords are. So for the example we're looking at today, it would be honeybees and colony collapse disorder. So this subject area is somewhat new for scientists. Starting in about the mid 2000s, scientists started noticing that honeybee populations were diminishing. They've done a lot of research since this was first discovered, and still don't know 100% what's causing it. So there's a lot out there in the literature about this particular colony collapse disorder. So I'm going to initially just search honeybees with the concept of colony collapse disorder and see what we get. Okay, so remember that this is a resource that's showing all sorts of different kind of information. If I scroll down, you'll notice on the left-hand side, you see all of these different kinds of resources. I can even do show more, and it's going to show me all the different kinds of formats of resources that matched my search criteria. Typically, when you're asked to write a paper, you're usually going to use those peer-reviewed journal articles, but you can use these magazine articles and possibly news and trade publications as a way to get up to speed on a topic if maybe you're not quite ready to digest a scientific article. So depending what your informational needs are, you can use this filter by format to get exactly what you're looking for. If you're ready to dive into that scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, you've got that limit over here, so you can check that. And that's going to limit you down to just those articles that are scholarly or peer-reviewed. So we went from about 4,000 articles to about 1,100 articles. So this is obviously a narrower search in the multi-search. So as we scroll through here a little bit, you'll notice a lot of times the full text is right here in the multi-search. We have a lot of full text content available right here in the database, just a click away. So once you've determined that something's of interest to you, you can click on that PDF full text. If you aren't quite sure, you can always click on this article title, and it's going to give you a little bit more information about the article. Typically, we'll give you an abstract. It gives you these nice subject terms. You can use those subject terms as ways to enhance your search. Maybe you do want to focus in on pollen, for example. So sometimes those subject terms can give you some additional terms that you can add to your search. So that's one thing you can do. I'm going to go back to my result list. So sometimes that PDF is right here in the database. In other cases, as we scroll through here a little bit, you may see this Find It at UGA button. So what that does is it'll go through and let you know if we have availability through our electronic subscriptions. I'm going to click on this one. This is Electromagnetic Fields and Colony Collapse Disorder of the Honeybee. So in some cases, you'll click on that Find It at UGA button, and you may get a message that we do not have online access. In typical times, this is something you could always request via our Interlibrary Loan service. Many libraries have also closed their doors at this time, but a lot of other libraries may have access to electronic holdings that we do not have access to. So if you ever click on that and see that we don't have it available, you'll notice here there's an option to request via Interlibrary Loan. It's not going to hurt to go ahead and put that request in. When you click on this, it's going to take you to a sign-on similar to what we've already seen, and then you can request it, and our Interlibrary Loan staff will see if there's another library out there that does have access to it. So go ahead and try it. It's a free service, and they're going to try to get it to you as soon as they can. In normal times, it's usually a 24 to 48-hour turnaround. Obviously, things are a little different now, but it's worth trying. Okay, so that's the multi-search. Again, that's going to be good for almost any discipline that you're interested in because it is a multidisciplinary tool. Very popular tool for researchers here at the University of Georgia. So obviously, Google Scholar is another very popular tool. You have a link to that from our homepage. We've also provided a link here in the presentation and also on your handout. The link on this presentation will take you to the UGA version of Google Scholar. So by going through this link or by going through our library's homepage, it will hook you up to our library's subscription. So if we do colony collapse disorder again, you'll notice those that we have available will now have the View It at UGA. If you were to just go to Google Scholar, make sure that you set your Google Scholar settings up here in the upper left-hand corner. You've got this option for settings, and where it says library links, you can search the University of Georgia and then save that, and then you'll always have linking to the University of Georgia. So either of those two ways, either going by our library's homepage or setting your Google Scholar settings to have the library links for University of Georgia will ensure that you're getting the most out of Google Scholar. So sometimes you may want to look at your research through a certain scholarly lens. Google Scholar and MultiSearch are both multidisciplinary, but the subject we're looking at today, colony collapse disorder and honeybees, may have implications in a wide variety of fields. Perhaps you're an economics major, maybe you're an ecology major or an entomology major. So another way that researchers can get to good information is using our research by subject guides. I'm going to click on this link. So every major, every school, every college at the University of Georgia is represented in this list. So whatever your area of interest is or of study is, you should be able to find a corresponding research guide here. Sometimes, like for the College of Ag and Environmental Sciences, we folded all of those under this big heading, but if I click on it, there are all the departments within Ag and Environmental Sciences. So do take note of this number to the side because this will give you the more specific research guides under that broader heading. So we even have things like maps and GIS. So there's all sorts of different kinds of disciplines in this research guide. But we're going to go under ecology. There's just one subject guide under that heading, because I want to point out a couple things to you. Every school, every department, every major has a subject-specific librarian. So for example, in ecology, your librarian is Kelsey Forrester. So if you're having trouble navigating any of these resources, your subject-specific librarian will be a really good resource for you. So if you come here, you've got a way that you can email her. We are all maintaining regular work weeks. We're available for Zoom conferences, available by email, available however you need to learn most, whatever your learning style dictates, we'll be able to accommodate that. So do reach out to your subject-specific librarian if you're having issues. The other thing you get at this research subject-specific guide is what we call the best bets. So Kelsey has curated kind of the best databases for you to use in the field of ecology. So typically the first one at the list will be the best one to use. So you'll see Web of Science here, and just a click away, you'll have access to this really great resource. So do go in that research by subject guide and play around, because you'll find some really good databases specific to your own research interest. We talked a little bit already about interlibrary loan, but just a reminder, obviously at this point we're not doing interlibrary loan for books at this point, but it is a good place where you can try to find electronic copies of journal articles as well as book chapters. They will not scan entire books, but if you just need a chapter out of a book and we don't have it available through the ebooks that we have, Interlibrary Loan can be a really good spot to go to. I'm going to turn it over to John now.
Well, thank you, Diana. I am going to proceed now to show you how to find ebooks, and the basics of it is very simple. You use our catalog, because ebooks are cataloged there just the same as a regular printed book is. To use our catalog, what you do is you go to our go to our home page, and it's libs.uga.edu, and you're going to see the Books and More link. Instead of MultiSearch, you go to Books and More, because that is our catalog. We don't call it our catalog in that red tag, but that's what it is. So I'm going to follow my instructions, Books and More, and it already knows I want to look for colony collapse disorder, so I'm going to save some time and just tip that in there and do a search. I'm searching our catalog for any books. Keep in mind with books, you're not going to get necessarily as detailed as you would when you're searching for research articles. The books are generally more general in their coverage, so a lot of times it's easy to find things with just a basic search. This search went through, and it shows that if you look in this fine print right here, that we have 52 items that are cataloged in our catalog that use the term colony collapse disorder, and I'm assuming most all are dealing with the honeybee colony collapse disorder. And right off the bat, I'll tell you, to know whether it's an online resource or an ebook, just look for this link right here. If it says online access, that means it's either an ebook or it could be something else. It could be a digitized film. So we have those as well. There are educational films in here, and a quick scan through this general results list shows some print items. That second item is actually a print item. However, I will mention in passing that it is available in another database in a digital form called HathiTrust, which I will be covering momentarily. But then there's some more ebooks, and I'll point out along the way that we have lots of government documents, which are also ebooks, and many of those are online. There are regular private publisher books, such as this number 4 in the list, and then several down here that are regular printed books. They're not showing as ebooks here, so we might not have those in our catalog available in an ebook format. And there are things here, for example, number 18, What's Killing Our Bees, is a film. So that's probably in a database called Films on Demand. In any case, you could also watch that, and it will in essence be an educational type film. It's not so likely to be just a popular film on that topic anyway. That wouldn't be that likely. All you have to do to go into one of these ebooks is click on the online access, and it will in most cases, unless it's a free resource, perhaps a government document might not ask you this, but most of these books, such as Vanishing Bees, Science, Politics, and Honeybee Health, if I wanted to get into that, that's a university press book from Rutgers University. I would just click on the link, and if I'm not already logged in to my account, it'll first present me with the links that I want to use. Sometimes there's only one link, sometimes there's multiple links, sometimes you have to guess which one you want, but just pick one. And when you go through with it, it's going to ask you to log in with your MyID, and you can just proceed to do that. And in this case, I will mention that we get ebooks from various vendors, and they each behave a little bit differently from each other, but they're more or less similar. You'll recognize the parts, so to speak. This one is coming from the EBSCOhost vendor, and we buy a lot of ebooks from them, and they tend to give you a table of contents, and you could go right straight into reading it here in your browser if you wanted to. And you just click on a chapter, whatever, or you could search it, and you're good to go. If that's good enough for you, you can just read it as long as you want, and then just exit. If on the other hand, you find that you want to download chunks of it, they usually have the ability to either do a full download or to download chunks of it into PDFs. Different vendors, this is where they behave a little differently. Some of them force you to install a little piece of software. It's not always as easy as just grabbing a PDF of a novel and putting it in your Kindle. Sometimes you have to take a few extra steps to make it work that way. And for that, we have a guide that will show you how to do that. And I will get to that in a moment. But just to let you know, that's how most ebooks will work. There'll be an onboard browser version that you can just read bits and pieces of as you need to, or as much as you want, or you can have the option of downloading parts or all of it in a PDF. Going back to our search, let me just point out at the top also, if you've done a search and you have lots of books and you only want to see the ebooks, over here on the left-hand side, you have under availability full access online. Just click that filter, and it will rebuild the search results and just show you the things that are online access items. Sometimes that helps. And you might have noticed in this particular topic, there's more that we have that has the online access than are in traditional print. It doesn't mean one's better than one group of items is better or more useful than another, but it just lets you know there's quite a bit just in our catalog that is in an ebook format. Before I get out of our catalog, I just want to point out another thing. When you're searching for anything, any kind of topics, I'm just going to put in a word for good old-fashioned library thinking about search terms, that sometimes you can help yourself by thinking closely about certain terms you're using. For instance, if instead of colony collapse disorder, I wanted to search for about things more generally about honeybees, I typed in the standard spelling there, that would be fine. And if I wanted to be a little clearer, what I would want to do is also use an older term, which is a separate words. I'm not even sure it's always older, so maybe some people are still using that spelling. So, and you notice I put it as a phrase in quotes, and you could even go one step further and start thinking of semi-synonyms. For example, this isn't the same thing because, assuming I can spell again, apiculture might include more than just honeybees, but I'm just giving you the idea. So sometimes you can help yourself if you're not finding enough by thinking about all the terms you're using. If I just typed in honeybees by itself, it would be 100 and something results. I just checked that earlier today. That's how come I know that. And if I put all three of those terms in, I use or, I'm saying get me anything that has any one of these terms in it, it expands it out to 444. If I dropped apiculture, it would be 300 something. So that's just a word to, you can use that in your article searching as well. But with honeybees, I just thought that was a good idea to know about that. Going back to our slides, we've covered that and we've covered that. And I mentioned that we have more information about dealing with different brands of ebooks. So I have a link to it over here on this particular slide, ebooks at UGA. And you see at a glance that we've created this guide that tells you about how to deal with getting our versions of ebooks, the ones we subscribe to on mobile devices, some of the things you might need to do if you're looking at an ebook that's from ProQuest, if you're looking at an ebook as we just were from EBSCOhost, you would have a series of hints and instructions of things you might need to do, or most likely do need to do, in order to make the ebooks work properly. If you're looking at something from Springer Link, they're a little different. And Adobe Digital Edition. So there's just different things to keep in mind. So that guide, that link to that guide is there in this handout for this webinar. So keep that in mind. So now, I mentioned earlier, I just in passing the database HathiTrust. So if you don't find something in the catalog, the GuildFind catalog that we were just using for the last few minutes, then I recommend you try HathiTrust, especially for the next few months while the COVID-19 crisis is on, because they've opened up a whole much larger number of their digitized books for us to access, for you students to access, and faculty and everybody. And so it's worth going in there and searching. And when you want to search HathiTrust, I recommend you go into HathiTrust separately and not rely on our catalog links, because they're not all in there. Go straight into HathiTrust. Anyway, and this is a database, by the way, you can go into any way you can get to it. This isn't one that you have to go through our homepage to make it work correctly. You just need to go to the HathiTrust database and log in, though, as a UGA person with your MyID. So let's just do that right now. And when you go there, you're going to see this little login over here. You follow that and make sure this says University of Georgia. If it doesn't, if you're coming in from just the plain web search, you're going to see a long list of universities. Make sure you pick UGA and hit continue. I believe because I'm already logged in at another resource, it knows I'm logged in, and so it's taken me right there without my having to enter my MyID. So in any case, if you see log out up there, you know you're logged in. And you can do the same search. If you've done a search in our catalog and you want to see if there's any more books, and I should stop, I was going too fast. HathiTrust is, in essence, a large library of digitized books. They're books that were originally print, that they've gone ahead and collectively digitized. A whole bunch of research libraries have gone in on this together, and they've digitized many ebooks, or many printed books, and in essence turned them into ebooks. And they've also digitized journals and lots of old reports, and it's just full of all kinds of things. Under normal times, there is a limited number that each library can usually get to. It's in full text, but at the present time, they've opened up a whole bunch more content for you to view. And so you can search just like we did before. If I wanted to see if they had anything different than what I found in that list of 33 that I just found in our catalog, I could do a search like this. You notice I've entered colony collapse disorder there, and I'm searching by default full text. I could also do the same search in the catalog, but the catalog is more structured search, and it can be much more useful or more efficient if you have a known item like a book title or an author you want to find. Then I would kind of recommend you try catalog. But this is just a rough and ready search, so I just want to see what it's going to find. And you notice it finds thousands and thousands of items that might be on target, but hopefully it puts the most relevant ones at the top of our list. And I see right at the very beginning, there's something, a spring without bees. And you don't know this, and because we didn't spend a lot of time in that list, but this book here is a book, it's fairly recent, it's 2008, and it's actually one of the first books where they were starting to talk about this, and it's sort of on the level of a popular science book. But we don't happen to have it at UGA, but several other University System of Georgia libraries own it, and therefore it's in here and we have access to it. And the way you know you have access to it is this temporary access. This brings up the point of what levels of access we have. In HathiTrust, this is the new thing that's not going to last forever, but it's going to definitely last through the end of June of this year. So if you see temporary access, you can get into that book. If you see full view, this is something that we've all along had access to and will continue to have access to. So those are the two access categories. Let me see if there's the third one in this list. May and may not be in this first screen. That there isn't, but there is one level that's where you cannot get into the ebooks. It's called limited search only, and if you see that, then that type of item is just simply not available to us at this time. But temporary access is available, and once again, to get into it, you just click on the link, and you notice up here you have one additional step. You can search something in the book right now if you want to, but if you really want to look in the book, you just check it out, and you'll see a little banner across the top that tells you the terms of the checkout. It's saying you checked it out right now. Well, it's the wrong time, but it's a different time zone. And it says you get an hour with this. And oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. It is the right time stamp. It's saying it is checked out until 5:08. And it will automatically or may automatically renew. I believe it automatically renews if you're kind of actively using it in the last few minutes of the hour, then it will automatically renew. But in any case, you could also go back in and check it out again if you needed to. And you notice otherwise, it kind of looks like the other ebooks that we were using. In any case, the thing you can't do when it's temporary access is you cannot download the whole book. You notice it gives you an option to download one page at a time. So when you're in the temporary access type of access, you cannot download the whole book. If you're in one of those full view items, then you can actually download the whole book. So there's a little bit of different terms that you have to kind of pay attention to. If you've read a bit of this and you're ready to get rid of it, even before the hour, then you just hit return early and you can go back and search for other items. And I'm going to go back to my full text search, and I want to point out one other little thing, just so in case you're using this. I'm going to go over to catalog search and search for a known item at this point. Because there is a situation where you might not see the link immediately. And so there's a book, a known item that I found that's called Biogeography and Taxonomy of Honeybees, a little bit older book. And I'm searching in the catalog, and I can even say, search for this in the title, and you'll see when you have something like that, it's more efficient. It just gives you that exact book. And you notice you don't see the link right there. Instead it refers you to view record. Well, they mean this catalog record here. And you just scroll down a bit, and there's where you'll see your temporary access link. So you could go in and view this item by coming over here. So don't be thrown immediately if you don't see the temporary access link. So that's HathiTrust. So you can possibly, depending on the topic, you can possibly add quite a bit of ebooks to what you found in our catalog by doing that search. But if not, let me make sure I didn't skip over anything in the HathiTrust section here. No. So if not, there are some additional things to consider. Of course, the obvious, this first one, web searching. If you're looking for anything that looks vaguely government-like or anything more like what we might call a report, an intergovernmental report, something from the Food and Agriculture Organization or something, always search the web. You probably know that already because you may find a free link to a PDF file that is the item. And I found some things that were listed in our catalog and weren't showing up as ebooks per se, and there weren't in HathiTrust either. They were perhaps a little bit too new for any of that. They're fairly recent reports, but I found them on the web easily, and so it's worth always keeping that in mind. But lastly, we have a guide that talks about even more ebook resources that we have access to, and it's all starts with HathiTrust, which we've already covered. Then there's Red Shelf textbooks. So this is something that's only open through May 25th, but in the meanwhile, it can be very handy. You can set yourself up with a free account, and you can pick up to 7 of their textbooks. And amongst their textbooks, people might want to note is you can get into the APA manual of style for citation purposes. You can get access to that. There's also a Turabian manual of style in there. And then there are many textbooks on many topics. So you can pick up the 7 of them and have a little digital shelf that you can go to. You cannot download the books in there. They're just basically view only. You can bookmark them, but you can't really take them with you in another format, but still it's potentially very handy. We have a long-standing subscription to a number of these databases and will continue to have access, for example, to Project Muse, but they've extended access to an extensive publishers list of ebooks through June 30th. And this will help a lot of folks more in the humanities area, looking at older text, historic texts, and so forth. It's a very extensive database. JSTOR similarly is multidisciplinary in all areas, but they've added access through the end of June to thousands of ebooks. Georgia OpenStax is run by our own University of Georgia Press. They have provided access to a number of their ebooks. They're commonly in the areas of history and humanities, literature, and so forth. So that's worth checking out. Elsevier Science Direct textbooks are going to be open through the middle of June. And I want to point out the Internet Archive, National Emergency Library Digitized book. I just went in there today, and if you're needing to find copies of what we might call more like literature, humanities, and even some somewhat older popular books, but even ones up to recent years, there's over 1 million books in there, and you can set yourself up with a little account and go in there and borrow books online, similar to what you saw in HathiTrust, except it's longer than an hour. You get 14 days. So that's worth keeping in mind, and that'll be up through the end of June. Cambridge has the variety of different sets of book, in essence, ebooks that you can get to now through the end of May, and similar with Sage Knowledge Books and Reference. And if I go down further, there's several sources for science journals and videos, education videos, Jove science education videos. It's worth knowing about. All of these really are. There's Sage Research Methods videos that you can get to through the end of May. In the arts and humanities, we mentioned Project Muse and JSTOR. There's also Bloomsbury Fashion Central. If you're in that area of research, it'd be worth checking that out. And we, of course, have there's newspaper archives, and before I go on a little bit further, I should mention, always remember we have many specialized databases in those subject guides that Diana showed you, which are in essence full text access to all kinds of specialized resources. And we have things covering government documents, we have things covering newspapers, we have many things that have what could be considered specialized ebooks already, and always have had those. So if you have questions about whether something is available and you can't find it in any of these resources, do feel free to contact us. Use our chat or email. and ask us if we do or don't have something definitively, and we'll do a little extra searching to help you if you haven't been able to find it yourself. And lastly, I'll point out that there's a number of resources where you can get into ebook access, temporary ebook access by requesting it from Nan McMurray or Krista Nielsen. So that's all listed down here at the end of this guide. So we have a lot that's could be called ebooks that you can get access to right now that should help supplement your research without need for print books for the time being.
So unless we have any additional comments, we can end today's broadcast. Diana, John?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.